This is Queer from the Other Side.
Your queer approach to everything from the paranormal and supernatural realms.
I'm Shana, your resident witch with a talent for hunting ghosts and connecting with Earth's energy.
I'm Alexander, your in-house skeptic, with my own ghost stories and obsession with outer space. But will I ever believe?
Get ready to explore.
Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Queer from the Other Side, where we explore all things supernatural, leaving no stone left unturned. I'm Shana Leilani, your resident witch.
I'm Alexander, and I'm your resident skeptic.
And today, well, actually, before we get into that,
we're
just fucking going right into it. Like, and today we're gonna do some space seed stuff.
I'm fascinated by everything: space, outer space, UFO, alien. Like, that's my jam.
Okay, so I think it was last week, I don't know, I got home from work or whatever I was doing. I was sitting in my front yard, and then I sent you a video. There's just random light in the sky, and it's just really slowly just cruising. And I'm like, first of all, I didn't see anyone talk about it online at all. But apparently, since we've declassified aliens, no one cares anymore. I don't know.
It is weird how that happened. People are like, it's another alien. Like, I guess we just accepted it without some big announcement.
I really thought that would be bigger. I also thought the identity of the Zodiac Killer would be bigger, and no one seemed to care about either of those things. So whatever. But of course, I'm like, of course this stupid shit happens to me. Why can't this happen to Alexander? He's the one that wants this.
So bad. When I was a kid, I would just go outside and look to the stars, and I would beg for aliens to come and visit me. You know, E.T. was one of my favorite movies growing up, but I would sit for hours and keep hoping that some UFO is going to come sweep me up.
I thought that E.T. looked like a melted Tootsie Roll, but that's just me. Are you doing that again now with everything? You're just like, take me, please.
At this point, yeah.
I mean, it'd be a vacation.
But you have a fear about UFOs.
I do,
Which is so odd to me, because you deal with, like, ghosts and goblins and demons and everything, and a UFO is going to scare you?
I don't know. I can't explain it. I think I've gotten a little bit better about it, but like I'm still not gonna like race to a movie theater to watch any kind of like alien movie.
I love it.
It's a little weird. I think because I know for the most part what to do when it comes to ghosts, right? I'm sure there's something out there that can throw me through a loop, but like I kind of know what I'm doing, you know? With aliens, like I don't.
That makes sense, actually.
You know, I don't. We're supposed to throw water on them, right? Like that was it, Joaquin Phoenix movie or something? Who was it? What? No, who was it? Who was in that movie? See, do you see what I'm talking about? Science.
Because like all the alien encounters we hear, like people are being probed and like medically, altered or dissected or whatever. It's never an alien just coming down and like hanging out, like watching a movie or something.
Right? Yeah. I think that could probably be it. So I saw a UFO, maybe just space junk entering the atmosphere. Who knows? I got followed home by a ghost, right? I was teaching a class on haunted artifacts at this really cool store. And then the next day, this like door knocker thing just started knocking on its own.
You sent me the video. It was some freaky stuff.
Yeah. And I would talk to it and it would knock back, and it just gave me the heebie-jeebies because the spirits that we were talking with the night before was a victim of a family annihilator.
That's a lot to handle.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I wasn't even sure if I wanted to actually touch that artifact, but that curiosity got the best of me. And I guess if it was her, I don't think I would have minded as much that she followed me home. But I was like, was it the husband? Because his spirit was there too. Was it other weird stuff in the store?
I thought you were supposed to like cleanse and get rid of all of that.
I did.
That's creepy, girl.
It was a lot. So I ended up having to do this really hardcore cleansing on Thursday, which like after you do that, like you can't talk to anybody, you can't be on social media, and that was right after like the Elon Trump breakup, so I didn't get to watch that in real time.
Girlies are fighting.
I know, and I was so disappointed I did not get to watch that in real time because of that, but whatever. But I did learn a new tip that I have for all the witches out there through this. Right? And you guys are going to laugh. But okay, in this cleansing, I can't tell you guys what I did, but I can tell you that I had to dispose of something at the cemetery. Right? And we're in the West Coast, so all of our cemeteries are locked up at night. You can't get in. So I had to throw this shit over the fence. All right? I did not excel at PE. Okay, this was not my thing. So I was very proud of myself that I was able to get the stuff over the fence. So my tip for all of you guys out there that are like, what's something a witch needs to know? You need to make sure that you can throw shit really, really high up in the air. That's it. That's all I got.
You know what's going viral, and it's filling my feed, and people are sharing left and right, and it seems like just this last week, it's people going into cemeteries with the Spirit Box app, and a lot of it is pretty scary stuff, but I did research on it, and a lot of people in the know, ghost hunters and paranormal, they don't believe in the validity of the Spirit Box. Yeah. But these videos, it's uncanny how whatever is talking.
I haven't used one of those apps in a really, really long time. So I've never been a really big fan of them. I think that they're very fabricated and just kind of weird. But I do know that there is one of our ghost hunter friends is coming out with his own app, and that it will have stuff like that on there. I would try that just because of the person that created it has higher standards, but in general, no. Have you also seen how people use Teslas to ghost hunt, though?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, when they see...
You can see, like the person. It's just interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. But, okay, are we ready for interesting? I'm ready for interesting. So
Beam
today,
me up.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. We have... Spencer Sweat here. Spencer is an ambassador for Unity Consciousness and represents the collective of extra dimensionals known as the Keepers of Time. For the last 3 years, he has worked as a front-facing consultant at a witchcraft store, providing spiritual counsel and services for clients from all walks of life. Before metaphysics, magic, and Martians, Spencer lived a comparatively mundane life. A Connecticut native, he holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in system engineering. He has served 11 years in the active duty U.S. Air Force and Space Force, where he was selected for the rank of major. He was one of the first 12 servicemen to undergo gender transformation following the original repeal of the transgender military ban. While in the military, the childhood repression of his gifts led to the inevitable exploration of magic. Little did he know that a self-empowerment spell would lead to a spontaneous 3 a.m. channeling of an extraterrestrial, the apparition of an 8-foot-tall praying mantis in a busy coffee shop, and the surprise visitations from members of the Keepers of Time who emphasize to this day that his upcoming role in the integration of Earth will be with the galactic community. Spencer currently lives in Southern California and has surrendered to the fact that his life is weird now. He embraces he embraces his role as a Starseed ambassador and light language engineer and dedicates his time to various projects in preparation for open contact. One such project is the art form he calls light language portraits, which combines elements of psychic readings, sigil magic, and light language to create art supporting the evolution of soul potential. He will be attending art school in the fall of 2025 to further develop his technique and to have fun before duty calls. In addition, he volunteers with the local Humane Society and the Point of Pride organization, which provides disadvantaged communities with access to gender-affirming care. Can we welcome one of the most incredible, maybe not human beings to the show, Spencer Sweat. Hi, Spencer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I have so many questions.
Me too.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I've known you for a while now, so I've actually been here for part of the journey that you have had, and it's really amazing to read a bio like that.
I'm glad you liked it.
And know that it's all true.
It sounds pretty crazy when you look at it, though. So,
I mean,
it's a lot.
Listen, it's 2025. Like, what isn't crazy? But it is. Fair. It is a lot. But I guess the first thing that's just like, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've gone from this like kind of normal mundane life. You've had so many different transitions in every sense of the word throughout life. And I need to know what the Keepers of Time are, because that I missed that memo since that happened. There's praying mantises. There's so much. Like, tell us what's up.
Well, it started when I was born, and I mean, how far back would you like to go with respect to like when did the aliens start? When did I start opening up to the subtle realms?
Yeah, like at what point did you kind of realize that, hey, maybe my connection with everything around me is a little bit different? Has it always been with you?
Yes, but I think like a lot of people who are sensitive, I shut down really young. And I actually have probably a lot of memory suppression of extra normal experiences because there's a lot of like blackouts in my childhood. Not because I had anything traumatic, but I just literally cannot access certain time frames. But I was really introduced to things like meditation and spiritual work without that language when I was young. My dad started teaching me mnemonics and other memory training devices when I was really little, and I started martial arts when I was younger. So this idea of inner contemplation kind of was seated, ironically, at a very young age, right? And I think the only core memory I have, it was right before a very pivotal moment in my life when I shut down. My folks divorced, but I used to meditate before going to bed. And as like an 8-year-old, one of my favorite things to do was to imagine pulling purple light in through the top of my head. Because who doesn't do that to go to sleep? No one has ever taught me this. I would just do that. I would lie in bed, I would pull in purple light through my body, and I would imagine opening this hole on top of my head and letting it all in. It just really calmed me down. And I heard a voice one night that said simply, "Don't think, just do." And it was after that like my life got a lot more challenging with respect to just, how I grew up. But it was at that moment I went, well, that's kind of weird, So it kind of started then, and I've had pepperings throughout my life, but I think you can probably relate a lot, Alexander. I was very skeptical of a lot of things, threw away a lot of things. I grew up in a not deeply religious household, but I had to go to church frequently enough. And going through confirmation, I thought, okay, I'm really gonna make this work now. I'm gonna figure this whole God thing out. And I just remember being so disappointed. And I remember in the midst of my, because I grew up in a Lutheran church, and there's a 2-year confirmation process when you're around your preteen, teenage years. And I remember after about a year of this, because it was a 2-year program, after the class had dismissed, my folks were late in picking me up, and I went up to the altar and I said, "Is there anyone there?" I felt nothing. I said, "Okay," and I walked away. And it was from that moment on, right around that time when, everyone's like, what are you going to be when you grow up? I just hardcore threw myself into the math and the science and, went down that sort of engineering track and started to really just dismiss a lot of not just my experiences, but also my creativity, if I'm really honest, because I think your spirit goes hand in hand with imagination and creation. And there's just a part of you when you're more technical, you start to lose that if you forget to integrate it as well. But I have lots of weird little stories that I dismissed throughout my life growing up. I think the first visitation I had, I was probably 17 during a martial arts competition. And I just thought, man, I'm wiped out. I, haven't eaten enough because I had come to this conclusion during the competition that I probably it was a bizarre situation because I lost on a technicality. I came in second place and I got a lot of attention. The guy who came in first, nobody really cared because the way that I lost was kind of spectacular. And I had a gentleman in a wheelchair come up to me and say, "Oh my gosh, you're so talented, never give this up." I had been thinking about starting my own martial arts school. My teacher had said, I could get you in a place where you're running your own, school as a part of this system. And as this gentleman was talking to me in the wheelchair saying, "You should never stop," I felt something come in between us. It wasn't with my physical eyes where I saw something, but it was this magnitude of pressure from something that was probably 10 to 12 feet tall. And it was looking at me and it said, "You're done now." And I just went, meanwhile, this guy is telling me how great I am and everyone else is like, "Oh my God, you're so talented." And this voice, this presence, this being that was huge said, "You're done." And so I just thought, someone needs to get me a granola bar because I think I'm just going to pass out. I must be exhausted. And of course I didn't listen, and I tried to do more martial arts as I continued my college career, but I kept getting injured. I had knee issues. I broke a bunch of toes. Every time I tried to follow it, something would get in the way, and it was very obvious, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, I've had a number of those sorts of experiences, but other than liking Star Wars as a kid, I mean, I was very neutral about aliens. I was more into like dinosaurs. So
Like it was always science.
yeah, I was always science. So
Can you tell me, so you consider yourself a starseed, right?
Yes.
I know
it's a
that's-
loaded word, but yes.
It is, and
Yes.
in Alexander's word, it's a space seed.
I was called space seed.
I'm into
What
it.
is a star seed?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I know it's not a simple definition, but you know, when I hear this term, I automatically think of hippy dippy,
Yeah.
psychedelic stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I've talked to certain people from the starseed environment,
Mm-hmm.
it's not been a great conversation because it's like they talk around what I'm actually asking. I'm like, what is a starseed? I'm like,
Yes.
oh, you know, this level of thought and all this. I'm like, okay, but what is it?
Yeah.
And most conversations just go in circles and circles. So I'm glad that we're sitting here with you because
Yeah.
you're like the most down-to-earth starseed
Thank you.
person, you know. And so I would love for you to define it for yourself as to what it actually means.
Absolutely. And like any identity, there's always people always have agendas, whether or not they're individual agendas or collective. So just like when I say the word family, that means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So when I honestly was not excited about coming to the term starseed because like you, I was like, this is ridiculous. You Google it and you get a bunch of like people gluing crystals
Yeah.
to their forehead. They're anything bohemian.
Yes, that's
like,
my idea.
I'm a
That's-
starseed shaman.
Yes.
And I'm like,
You don't think an engineer, right?
No. Very frustrating. Because they're kind of full of shit. Can I swear on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
And I don't want to say it, but
Bullshit.
that's what comes to my mind when
Yeah.
somebody says, I'm a starseed. I'm like, okay.
And I think, unfortunately, because Starseed is connected to outer space, there's also this propensity for escapism. People are so unhappy with their lot in life that if I can just pretend I'm not from here, then I can really take this idea of, oh, I'm a victim for everything here, but I'm not really here because I'm actually just out in the cosmos. And I think it really belittles the work that you're capable of doing here on Earth. So I thought about this last night because I knew this was going to be the question. Like, how do I define starseed? And I'm going to probably piss off a lot of other self-identified starseeds out there with my definition. But I want to start first with a foundation of, I called it unity consciousness in my bio, but to simplify that even more, are you guys familiar with the concept of oneness? Yes, no.
Like collective consciousness oneness?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've
Yeah.
heard of it? Have we heard of it?
I mean, I've heard the concept that we are all one energy.
And that's enough to start with.
Yeah.
So just like when I talk about my body, all of my cells are not individual, although I can perceive them as individual. I am one collectively. And as above, so below, you can start to apply that to everything. And I think we've all had this experience of oneness when we become more than ourselves in collaborative efforts. Like, are you in theater or sports or anything?
Used to be in theater a lot,
yeah.
yep.
So you've had that experience where your individual self melts away and you feel like you're part of this larger orchestra, right? The orchestra itself with all these instruments, yeah, you've got soloists, but they're speaking as a collective. So when I talk about oneness, I'm kind of talking about that feeling of being a larger collective. And you can go up as much or as small as you want, down to I'm an individual and I want to be disconnected. I think a lot of people miss the oneness concept when it comes to being a starseed. Because for me, being a starseed is expanding into the larger galactic consciousness of all that is. And potentially beyond that into any non-physical, non-material realm. I would say that the idea of starseed almost stops at the idea of living in the cosmos, because if you were to go into, say, the angelic realms, they're conscious, but they're not really single entities having like an embodied experience, you know? So I would say the starseed, the buck there, kind of stops there and doesn't proceed on into those really non-physical domains. But just like all of us are aspects of all that is, the one, if you want to call it that, or creator, if we want to kind of personalize it. You have all of the cosmos within yourself. You are stardust. And if you start to awaken to your larger nature, you start to realize yourself as an expression of a larger group. Just like if you're maybe a supporting role or a lead role in a play, it's about you, but it's also not about you. And someone I might consider an earth seed is someone who's able to do that same thing, but with the human collective. So it's all about perceiving what part of community you're in resonance with, and you can't experience what you're not of. So a starseed acknowledges and then comes into resonance with off-planetary energies and finds commonality between them. There's a big hang-up on this word alien. Think about what that means, just how we refer to other people, right? In this country, alien, other. And if you maintain this concept of other, you can never be of. Acknowledging starseed nature means acknowledging self within the other, but just on a different playing field. Does that kind of make sense? Does that help answer?
I think it makes yes and no.
Sure.
And the reason why is I think so often when we hear starseed, we do think aliens and we think extraterrestrial. We think, other planets. But the way that you're making it seem is almost like, to me, the way that witchcraft or psychic abilities is, in the sense of it's something that we all have. We are all born with it. If you can connect to that and shape it and do something with it, that's a different story. That's on the individual. So I kind of feel like what you're saying. So often I think when people tell me that there's starseeds, I mean, no one's ever really given me an answer of what a starseed really is, but we're kind of led to believe that it means like you're an alien, but like in human form. But what you're kind of saying, it's almost more like you've tapped into an energetic wavelength, very similar to like psychic awareness, but like a other planetary energy that is in all of us?
Yes, because what I want to get at, and I think what you're bringing up is really important with, I think, the existing starseed narrative, is this obsession with the idea of linear time. And this idea of having reincarnational experiences. Well, I was an alien before, and I'm an alien sent here to help Earth because it's a mess, and it is. Okay? I'm not pretending that it's not. Okay, but let's play the game of linear time. Let's say that I, Spencer, have had at least 100 lifetimes. Okay, I think this is the answer I would have given you a year ago. If I, Spencer, am a starseed, then maybe 90% of my lived experiences are off-planet, and maybe 10 or even just one of them is here on Earth. That's what a lot of people say when they say, I'm not from here. I haven't had a lot of experiences. I want to go back home. It's this idea of I've lived 99 lifetimes out in Jupiter or Arcturus or wherever it is that you say your origins are from, and now I'm stuck here on Earth and I don't want to be here. Okay. Now, I fundamentally disagree with that perception of linear time. I do agree with the idea of percentage of focus of consciousness, okay? Because if I exist outside of time, then all that matters is where my consciousness is focused as, a percentage. So let's call this my higher self. We've all used that term or heard that term before. My higher self has a 90% focus out in other galactic lives and a 10% focus here on Earth. When Spencer dies, Spencer does not then go become a Pleiadian, okay? Spencer is always an earthly lifetime that potentially has the opportunity to persist into the energetic realms, just like ascended masters. When they die, and if their energetic light body is strong enough, then that can persist in perpetuity as an aspect of the human collective. And when I die, this aspect of me will always be a part of the human collective. But the part of me that is the sort of silent observer to my human experience, that is the thing that goes off and focuses on another lifetime experience. And given the way the human collective is going, it's going towards a place of really deep compression and kind of destruction of its own consciousness, right? It's very self-mutilating if you look at our history, what we do to each other, how we treat each other. It's falling apart. And the idea of starseeds coming in to help is to bring in energy from different sources to really kind of like put humanity, the human collective, on an IV to bring in more of source consciousness from different aspects so that it doesn't implode into non-existence and kind of go off into the dust, if that sort of makes sense.
I feel
I'm
like
going into a lot of different concepts here, and I might be going away from the
I
idea
know there's
of Starseed. There's
I
a
have
lot to go
so many
into.
questions, and there's so much to cover, and we have such like a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
But so what you're kind of getting at, though, is something that I think a lot of Starseeds talk about is basically like just to dumb it down completely. Like basically, you're here to save the Earth. You're here to save the day. But here's
Earth
my
doesn't need
question.
saving.
No, the Earth does. She has a parasite called humans.
Humanity needs saving.
Yes.
The Earth will persist without us.
Yeah, but how? Like that's I guess like I mean, there's so many different ways that anyone can help with any kind of cause. Like everyone has their own thing that they're doing. If you're going to be out at the front line of something, if you're kind of doing research, you're doing like a support role, this or that. I feel like a lot of people that I've met that are here on this mission to save humanity, I don't see the saving. I don't know where the efforts are. So, and while you can only answer for yourself, where are you at on figuring out what your mission is?
I mean, that's a great question. I have, you know me, I like to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to try and tailor it down for the sake of time. But I also disagree with the word save. Okay. You can't save anyone. Have you ever had a friend who's like killing themselves with drink or drugs or just poor lifestyle choices? They're always dating the same loser.
And no matter what you say, or no matter how much it makes sense, they will never change it unless they themselves change their outlook. Yeah, 100%.
Can't save anyone. What you can do is be present and compassionate and show an alternative way, and anyone who is willing or looking for help can say, this is in resonance with me, I'm going to do what that person is doing, I'm going to come to them. So you can serve as almost like a lighthouse. If a ship is sinking and there is a lighthouse, the lighthouse does not throw itself into the water to save the drowning people. It's there. You got to swim. You got to swim towards the shore. There's nothing else you can do.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that.
Yeah. So I and if there are any starseeds out there listening, I want to tell you, stop trying to save people, okay? Because you're a lighthouse. You can't be throwing yourself in the water. I just want to be really clear about that. I think it's really it's a toxic savior complex. You know, you see that in a lot of different arenas.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important note that I wanted to add.
I think we've just pissed off like all of the space seeds.
No.
By the way.
So Spencer, these visitations, what is this energy that you are being visited? What's their purpose? What do you gain from these visitations? Do they visit us all and we just don't see it?
So when it comes to visitations, in a similar way to ghosts, a lot of these entities are, I call them extra dimensional. They're here, but because our focus is so rooted in 3D and 4D, if you want to count time, you can't really perceive them with the material, mundane senses. But if you it's funny because consciousness creates. So you draw in what you're creating, and I know you brought up this idea of like, oh, these terrible movies where they're coming in and they're taking over the earth. There are some people who really want to experience that, and there's an aspect of that can happen in some other timeline. I think at least the one I'm trying to move into, does not incorporate any of that. And acknowledging these other entities as other selves, I see them as family. And if they're family, what does family do? Hopefully, when another family member is struggling, they're here to help. They're not here to fix your problems, but they're here to help guide. And at the end of the day, everything that is a party. The cosmos is a party. All of creation is made up. That's why they call it creation. All that is got so bored of being infinite and eternal that it made creation to occupy itself. And at the end of the day, you want to have fun. So a lot of these folks coming here want to be in relationship with us. Because what else do you do at a party? You chat, you play party games. And and I know that maybe is glossing over some of the darker aspects of, extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial contact, because there is a lot of darkness as well. But you have to also remember that dark and light, it's not good and bad. It just is. These are fundamental, primordial energies of the cosmic soup. But I guess I'll go to that moment. I had my first one come in to me. It was at 3 a.m, following a convention that I had just gone to. My spirits had me go to a place called the Conscious Life Expo, which is a fun time. It's been going on for a couple decades now, and I'd never heard of it, but at the store that I work at, I mean, it got so ridiculous. They delivered stacks of flyers nonstop after, like, a podcast I'd been listening to that day had randomly brought it up, and I wasn't searching for it, so I just kind of got the book thrown at me. Like, you need to go to this. And I said, God, all right, fine. And I had this hesitation of like, oh no, I'm not into the alien stuff. Like, what is this? Because I thought I was just going towards all the witchcraft stuff, but I was just getting really steered away from all of it. And something was kind of going off about light language. I had heard the term. I wasn't satisfied with the stuff I was finding online, because you see people like talking in weird voices, and it's just, it was dumb. Honestly, it was really dumb. I was like, I don't get it. And so I went with the intention at this expo to learn about light language. And I picked up some things from different people, but I didn't come home with a cohesive answer. So one of my, I'll call them extraterrestrial guides, came in and gave me an answer. And this was the first time I had involuntarily channeled anything. In some witchcraft circles, they call it possession, right? You're letting a deity or a nature spirit into your body. And I just remember feeling like I was standing next to myself in the bed. And I'm just talking. My body contorts like this. And all I could think was, oh my God, I don't want to wake up my roommate, but I'm saying some really cool stuff right now. I can't stop now. And I could have really stopped it if I needed to. But I started talking in this like funny accent. I have it all recorded because I had the wherewithal to like slap my phone and get it to record. He shared with me these really profound answers about how light language is really just expressions of consciousness, and how light is, energy, and it's all about communication. And when you get into so many different spiritual practices, you start to see this pattern of there's one that then became two, and now the self is reflected upon the self to have experience. And he was saying that's essentially what light is. The question then is, how much light are you speaking with? Because you've probably heard your favorite song and it'll bring you to tears, right? It moves you. You feel something. And then you hear a cover of it that is technically perfect and you couldn't care less. Like, you just feel numb. So that's the difference of speaking with quantities of light. And that's what light language is. Technically, dance can be light language. Just being in a body is light language. So you can then start to apply that to everything. And people have decided to apply it to spoken word, which, again, if you look at spiritual traditions, so many times you see first there was the word, sound preceding light. And by creating sound with yourself, you literally vibrate. Right? You hum, and you can feel it in your sternum, and you can technically feel it in your fingertips. And then you realize that you're changing your vibration, literally, like plucking the string on a cello or a violin or something. And through that, you then start to create, because light always follows sound. And it was that sort of very profound thing that he's talking to me about. And then again, I'm sitting in bed, contorted, and it was funny because it was very telepathic, because he's speaking out my mouth and I'm thinking like, who is this? What's happening? And he's like, well, we don't have names, so why don't we choose one together? So I came up with the letter A, and we agreed on this name, Armin. So he called himself Armin. And then, of course, at some point I like on and off channeled all morning. I would go to bed and I would wake up. There was a lot happening. There was something at work that really proved that this was true. Remember Kaz, right? So one day it explaining some of the stuff that had happened to my coworker, and she started picking up some hits from him, and then he said to her, "By the way, here's your coffee." And we looked at each other like, what? What does that even mean? Your coffee. She forgot that she had DoorDashed like Starbucks or something. Within 2 minutes of getting that sentence, she gets the ping saying the DoorDash was on its way. Guess what the delivery driver's name was?
Armin?
Yeah.
Get out.
I'm not
That's
like
so
the both of us
crazy.
are like, ah! Right. So so Armin is a praying mantis being. Because
Is he the praying mantis that you saw at the coffee shop?
not the same one.
that
An actual
Like a-
praying mantis.
Essentially, yes, like a
an
giant bug.
What are you seeing?
But-
So you're actually seeing this insect.
I didn't. So when he was in my body, I felt him, but he joked because my hands kept doing this, and I had never heard. This was very new to me. I hadn't studied any galactic stuff at all. I had not heard of like praying mantis aliens or anything.
I was gonna say, is that like a
It's
race?
common.
Okay.
It's a common, sort of like humans are a common template. You're going to see a lot of bipedals in the universe. Apparently, that bug template is actually pretty common as
Why?
well. I don't know. Why not?
I mean, your hands do this, my hands do this.
But
That's
he's
so odd. What is there? Is there some element to that insect? I don't know a lot about praying mantises, except after they have sex, they kill each other, right?
She beheads him. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
the feminine gets rid of the male just like that.
But is there anything about the insect that carries over into your idea of this energy?
It's interesting because as I've continued my work, I've had a lot of insectoids come in, not just praying mantises. And I'll extend that to arachnids as well. Like I have channeled an arachnid angelic, which I thought was the dumbest.
What the hell is that?
Well, you've heard of angels like Michael,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You know, well, guess what? Any being that has an evolutionary path, like cats, squirrels, dogs, plants, they have angelics too.
You know, you said
And-
that, and I was thinking of like the biblically correct
the thrones,
angels.
yeah.
With and I'm like,
Bunch of eyes and
eyeballs. Yeah, I was just like,
wheels.
I like agree. I'm like, yeah, all right, I can see it.
Yeah.
A million wings, like those are legs. Maybe I'm reaching, but it kind of makes sense. So
Yeah.
is Armin like kind of like a spirit guide?
He is.
Okay.
He's a non-physical alien, so to speak. So
that's another thing.
that's where
that I
it starts
wanna-
to get
yeah.
soupy. Yeah,
Well,
with words. Yeah.
I feel like forever we've heard about like aliens, like little green men, right,
Yeah.
from Mars. But
Yeah.
now we have starseeds, which are a different kind of alien. But I don't feel like we're talking about the same thing. I feel like it's just
It's
like
not like in a silver spacecraft. It's just a different plane.
like-
it's a different.
Yeah.
It's a different. Whole different. Different.
I feel like the word alien is just like a word that is being shared between two very different
Yeah.
things, right? So, like, do you
Yeah.
think you're going to get beamed up in a UFO? Is probing people one of your hobbies? You know what I mean?
That's personal.
Legitimate questions. I mean, maybe I'm into it. Who knows? But to answer your literal question about getting beamed up, I mean, I'm going to be working with these people, whether I like it or not, in the years to come. So yes, there will be a literal beam up. No, I'm not leaving Earth because my work is here for this lifetime. It's going to be integrated, potentially going off-world in the coming decades and coming back, but I'm not leaving permanently. That defeats the point. So what question do you want to dive into? There's a lot.
Oh, see, now I have a whole different one though. Like this is not helping my
I know.
ADHD.
We need more than 50 minutes to
No
really
kidding.
do this justice.
Well, so speaking of your work and speaking of light
Yeah.
language, which I'm glad that you kind of addressed light language. I am very vaguely familiar with it. I don't know if you've ever heard of light language before. Honestly, my experience with it is watching girls with oversized crystals that cost way too much money make weird noises at
Yeah.
a camera. And
yeah,
they,
and then asking people to pay you money.
yeah,
Or pay them money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And people like crying, saying that was healing. So that's what I got from
Yeah.
it, right? So many people are going to watch this and be like, fuck this show. But I'm saying the stuff like that a normal person, like, is kind of like picking up on. So I'm glad that you kind of address what light language is. But you've actually taken light language, and I think it's important that we all know where our talents and our skills and our passions are with anything. And I feel like you've taken yours as art, right, and that being your talent and your passion here, and you've created light language with that in a way that you basically kind of do readings for people with it.
Yeah.
So can you explain kind of just like what that is and I guess, like, how does that translate? Because, again, you're not a girl with an oversized crystal making weird noises.
No.
You are, and you're perfect man, as we always call you, making really beautiful art with this that's, really kind of, like, transformational for people that are on their own spiritual journey. So can you tell me more about how that all started?
I can. And did you want to add on to the question?
Well, so is your art, would that be considered alien art?
You can. Yeah, absolutely. So, this is where it gets to be really fun and divisive because people have a lot of different opinions about what light language is or isn't. The simplest explanation I have for how I work with light language is, let's pretend that we're in a simulation. All right, it's a computer program. It's the Matrix, ones and zeros. Those ones and zeros are aspects of consciousness. They make you. They are your hologram. So when I work with light language, I'm actually just working with sort of like your atomic structure and how it sounds. So I do have an example. I know, Shana, you got to see it before, but I'll pass it over to Alexander so that he can take a peek, and feel free to show it up to the camera if you want. But that's an example of a portrait I did for someone. And unlike the language that we are familiar with, A, B, C, D, E, those are not like letters in an alphabet. It's like musical notes that make you who you are. And what I do is, by listening to your notes, I try to listen to what's out of tune. Because if this is a projection of your higher self into 3D reality, then I want to know, well, what is the big you trying to get across to little you that, like, our, dumb human brain just can't figure out? And it's a way of sort of retuning you in a way that serves whatever your intention is. So I'm not here to answer questions about your love life or your career or, like, when's a good time to start my business. No. I'm interested in, how are you trying to evolve as a soul, and what can I do to help speed that along? Because just like in a video game, when some sort of action gets triggered, like if you go from one level to the next, suddenly the boss shows up. I want to figure out, how can I trigger the next action in your evolution that you are interested in working on, so that you're not just going in circles. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm opening a direct line, like fiber optics. It's like a portal into that computer code, and just by having it now in physical reality instead of in the multidimensional ethers, you can tune yourself to it like a pitch pipe to a choir, right? So then you can get on tune with whatever it is you're trying to do.
So when you do this for someone, is it kind of like when you get your like birth chart read, where someone kind of tells you about yourself and explains things, or is this more of like initiating some kind of soul healing?
It's, I would say, closer to the latter. But it's also inextricably intertwined with who you are. And in a lot of different Eastern frames of thought, you start to come across a lot of inquiry-based spirituality. Who am I? And who am I gets to change from moment to moment, from day to day, because we actually have creative free will expression. Today I'm on a podcast. Tomorrow I could decide to, I don't know, go to music school or, be an ice skater. Like, I can be all these different things, but who is it that you're trying to be? Ideally, that answer expands you and makes you bigger. So it's going to be really different from person to person. But this is where it starts to turn into alien art. Because whenever we start talking about expansion, that starts going outside the Earth. and it starts opening you and opening you and opening you. Instead of having this fear of, well, what's out there? It could be really bad. You go, oh, well, what am I so scared of? It's just more of myself. And you start to take on this frame of curiosity. But it has to start small. You start here, right? How can I open up more into my human life? Yeah.
And do you think this kind of connection has helped you through your transition? In terms of, of being trans, there's a whole different sensibility, there's a different aesthetic, there's a different understanding as to who we are and how you identify.
Yeah.
I mean, you've taken this to a whole other world.
I've tried every single label under the sun. I've been bisexual, I've been a straight trans man, I've been a gay trans man, I was a lesbian at one point. I just kind of gave up trying after a while. I think that's so indicative of just what life is about. Because if you come to a final answer, then it ends.
Yeah,
the play's done. And
so, well, I know that we're running short on time, but I just want to say, like, throughout the time that I've known you, we have hung out and gardened. We have gone to rituals together. We have had family dinners together. We've done all these things. And through it, I feel like, again, like we always joke, like in our friend group, like you're like the perfect man. Because it's just but it's because you're grounded and you're all of these really wonderful things. So it's just like, I've always seen you as somebody that's just like really got their shit together. You've come from like this really respectable military career. You have this high education. You're kind, all of these great things. So then you come to me and you're like, by the way, I'm an alien. I'm like, God damn it, Spencer. Again, nearly perfect, right? I was so like, oh no.
I gotta have something to work on.
But, right, there you go. But it did make me stop, because usually when people come at me with that, I immediately shut it down. I'm like, all right, you're Looney Tunes. I don't want to deal with you. But I know who you are as a person beyond that. And I think I was kind of there for part of that discovery for you. So it's made me kind of be like, all right, let me give this a chance and try and understand it more. And one of the reasons being is because you are so grounded. So my question for you with all of this is how does this new discovery and the philosophy that is now coming with us through all these experiences relate to your time in school, to be an engineer, to be in the military, and all of these very grounded and practical, mundane things? Like, where's the correlation that you've made sense of this for yourself?
Absolutely. That's a great question, because it does seem pretty disseparate, a bit unrelated.
Well, and even more than just career, but because I have this kind of question too. It's even like even going to the grocery store or sitting and watching reality TV. You have such a higher understanding of what's going on in the bigger picture. Like, I can't imagine you sitting and watching reality TV.
I don't watch it.
Or like going bowling, because you're like, oh,
I actually
God.
hate bowling. So I don't.
But all these like little things, like going to the grocery store or having to take a shower. It's just like all these
it doesn't matter.
Simple. That's right. So how, like, to your point, how do you even like wake up when you're just like, oh God, I have all this understanding and I have to go like take out the trash? It seems so like trivial. Yeah,
it is. And it's funny, because I think when you start opening up spiritually, you do start to get to that point of like, well, if it doesn't matter because it's all made up, then what's the point?
Yeah.
And so the point is whatever you want it to be. And that can either be freeing or terrifying. If you're not ready to take responsibility for your own creation, then it's probably going to be terrifying. But understanding that there's always opportunity to make something out of what is quite literally nothing that we've imagined out of the ethers, then you can find importance in anything. But it takes work, because it's really easy to slide out of that, for sure.
And I'm obsessed with life after death because of my own experiences and my own like journey. How in your mind that you have a different understanding, what is your take on life after death? After our body dies, what happens? Where do we go? What happens to our energy? Is there a heaven and hell? I mean, do we just become part of this alien energy?
So it is going to be, in my understanding, different for every person, because we are conscious creators. If you have a very firm belief, and belief creates structure, talk to anyone with a belief, they're living a very different life than you. They've created a whole new reality. You will experience that immediately after death. So if you believe in nothing, you're going to experience nothing. But then the key thing then is you experience something, and when you're free of the gross physical, your consciousness creates immediately without time lag. So at some point you're going to be like, wow, this is boring. I kind of want to experience something that's not nothing. And then suddenly you start to pop into that. As long as the entity that has crossed over is cohesive enough to persist. And that's where we start to run into a lot of issues with ghosts and so on. Because in life, they were not present enough to keep their consciousness well sewn together, that the only way they can kind of keep cohesion is by attaching to the things that kind of had their signature, their memory, their scent. Those people who've had really strong identities of self are going to have a much better chance at existing beyond death as themselves rather than dissipating. And in that case, energy just transforms into different energy. That's kind of my take on it. So yeah, there's a lot that can go into it, though.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of it can kind of be like related to energy work in its own way.
Yeah.
Almost like if you look at like the mythos with different deities from different cultures, like they all kind of relate. You know, we're just using different words and stuff. And I feel
and
like
a lot
it's
of
on
those
something.
were also like extraterrestrial
You
beings.
know what?
Like,
don't go there with me, man. I'm steadily getting into it.
you know,
If I wake up one day and
Not
think
all
I'm
of
an
them.
alien, I'm going to be really, really mad at you.
So then what are, like, the little green men?
Yes.
And you were part of the Air Force. I
Yeah.
mean, like,
Yeah.
so what
And
is
the
your
Space
take
Force,
on
ironically.
I know.
the
I always
Space
laugh
Force?
at that.
So what are these flying objects then? It's not your sense of alien,
Yeah.
but are these other beings?
It's a lot of things. It's other humans having reverse engineered alien tech. It's actual other aliens. It's humans from alternate dimensions and timelines, because when you start to understand how soupy time is, it's like that movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. There's actually a lot more bleed through with different versions of time and reality that can result in different popovers. So it's everything and that you've listed and more, you know. We're going to see a lot more of it. We're going to come to a point where it's just unmistakably like, okay, the people we're going to start working with is coming, because open contact is coming. I can't be, I mean, I know this, I feel ridiculous saying this, because 3 years ago I would have been like, absolutely not. This is bullshit. But what I have been told is within the next, at least 2 to 3 years for me, I'm going to hit a breaking point. And within the next 5, it's not going to be first contact. It's going to be like, all right, they're here. Now we're going to get on with it. Because they're already here. But because they're more, generally speaking, evolved, there are abilities that they have where they can choose to not be perceived, but they're just hanging out. They could be standing right here, just like our guides, right?
You say that, though, and it freaks me out, man. I don't know what that is. Ugh.
But there is that whole school of thought that
Yeah.
people believe that aliens take our form and they
Yeah.
live among us
And they
just
can.
to keep watch on us. and-
Some can, yeah, absolutely.
I remember my grandmother telling me that once when I was telling her I was afraid of aliens. She's like, but they look just like us. They walk among us. And how does that help me right now?
So something I want to offer, regardless of what you're perceiving, there is the stereotype of the little green man. I don't have enough time to go into it because that is a podcast in and of itself. But anything that you experience, you are of. Okay? I can't experience you two. I can't have this chat without you two being here. Therefore, you are a part of me in this experience. Then you think of even just the mechanics of how we breathe, right? I breathe out these particles, and trees take them in, and the atoms become, we're so deeply, deeply interconnected in that way. So I'm perceiving myself. And if you are perceiving yourself in fear, does that not beg for you to overcome and learn to integrate with whatever it is that's pushing you away? And we're talking about the fundamental repulsion and attraction forces of the universe.
Yeah.
What is it about yourself that you would rather stay away from?
That is a very good point.
And this is why I think it's so important to couch any discussion about extraterrestrials, aliens, in grounded spiritual almost sounds like an oxymoron conversation, because at the end of the day, it's all connected. And if you want to see something out of context, you're going to perceive it in a biased way. So you really have to come from that place of, well, okay, what's the purpose for existence? And then you're going to start seeing reasons like, well, why are they showing up? You know, if you have a deeply resolved fear that just exists within the human consciousness, where you said, you know what, I'm going to incarnate as Shana with a deep-seated fear of, you know, aliens so that I can get over that on behalf of the whole, then you're going to do that. But then the you that's already forgotten that sort of life plan is going to be like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Why is that happening? You know what I mean?
I mean, no, that's true. And I think anything that we're afraid of or we don't like, we have to actively work to get over.
The point of resistance is the point of greatest growth.
You know, I'm not a fan of the wind. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah. I don't do wind.
Is that a euphemism for somebody or
No,
actual
she
wind?
literally doesn't like the breeze.
I don't like.
I love the wind.
No, no. We've literally been hanging out and we were supposed to go outside and do stuff. And I was like, so there's wind there?
I love
we're staying
wind.
inside. No,
I
but I've worked on it though. I have literally and it felt like nails on a chalkboard to just sit out there in the wind. But
I love it's exhilarating for me.
No.
like
See,
it.
that's a witchy thing too. See, like witches usually love wind. But you know what? I really don't like bugs, and that you just kind of like click something to my head because you're talking about like this insect like quality to aliens.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I wonder. But now next time I see a cockroach, I'm like, fucking alien.
Well, you know, there's something about the hive mind that really relates to unity consciousness, right? A collective of bees. They're not individuals.
Yeah.
They're a group.
Yeah.
And
they're
ants,
all sort
how
of,
they follow each other. Yeah.
and they're sort of waiting for us to figure out, well, stop being individuals, right? When are you going to start working together?
Yeah.
They can provide a good example for that.
So before we go,
Yeah.
just because I always giggle Spencer the alien from Space Force. Like I
I know
love
the
that.
irony is not lost on me.
But just quick yes or no through your time there, or just in other words, have you seen a UFO? Have you seen a more like conventional and like mundane sense of like an alien?
Other than that experience where one manifested in the coffee shop where no one else could see them, yes. But through my work in the service, no. Like my job was I was a desk jockey. Like I was in special services. My guides have really kept me out of like weird situations. You hear about all those like,
They've kept you normal.
Yeah, they kept me normal, and it's for the best. You start to hear about all these things where like special op guys get pulled into the like. I missed all of that. I was a glorified auditor for a while.
Are you happy that you missed it, or are you like, darn?
It's for the best.
Okay.
It's for the best because now I get to come to this on my own terms instead of part of a larger agenda. So to
Okay,
speak.
I like that.
Yeah.
Spencer, this has been a wonderful and wild ride, and thank you so much for sharing
Thank
all of
you.
it with us and letting us ask questions and just all of it.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if there's something that you said that resonated with them, if they want to get a light language art reading with you or any of these things?
Yeah.
How can folks find you?
Yeah, so right now I am focusing on a lot of my physical health, so I have very limited opportunities to do those portraits for people. But coming up in July, I'll have a few more openings. My Instagram handle is the best way to reach me. It is at Starseed Engineering. I have to reference it to make sure there's an ing at the end. At Starseed Engineering at Instagram. Feel free to shoot me a DM. There's also a link tree on there. It's very rudimentary, but you can see more about booking portrait opportunities on there. So that's the best way to reach me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Thank you for
And
having me. I wish we had a lot more
luck.
time.
I know. It's just like really
It's
every
hard
question.
to pack this into 50 minutes.
Yeah.
'cause,
Every
But
question
I-
opens
I-
10 more.
But I think it's good that we brought it just down to the basics because people like me just have this idea and we
Yeah.
roll our eyes and now I understand it more.
Oh,
and
thank
what
you.
the
Glad.
sincere part of it should look like.
Yeah.
Just like the witches that walk around with like spider webs and like, ooh, I'm so spooky. It's like, well, that's not really a witch thing, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
the
that's
aesthetic of it all.
exactly how I felt when Spencer said like, okay, so this is, what I'm about. Like my first thought, like my first knee-jerk reaction is to like roll my eyes and be like, oh, okay. But I had to stop and be like, I'm talking to somebody that I really respect and that I know. And I'm like, hold on, like this is actually an opportunity to try and learn something here and like broaden my understanding.
Starseed is
So-
more than an aesthetic. Just wanna throw
Exactly.
that out there.
There we go. It's more than I like that. Thank you for that. Well, Spencer, Thank you for everything. Thank you for coming on the show.
It's been fun.
And thank you, everyone, for listening, for watching, for bearing with us through all of it. I hope we didn't get too many starseeds mad, but I hope we got just the right amount mad. How about that?
Yeah.
Love to chat.
All right, guys.
Open to opinions.
Stay spooky. We'll see you next time. Bye.
That was another episode of Queer from the Other Side.
Please like, share, review, and subscribe. And until next time, stay curious.